Okay, let's talk about projects. So, if you have read the newsletter, you probably read about this because I spoke about it before. If you haven't, projects is how I am approaching progress rather than setting goals. Okay, goal setting, is important. We need to know what we're aiming towards. We need to know what we're working. Two, it's a way of taking your big vision, that big picture, and putting it into smaller pieces that you can tick off. And then all of that combined should bring you that big picture. But the problem with goal setting is that finally just doesn't work. You've got the old SMART acronyms and making sure goals are specific, measurable, actionable, time scaled, and all of those kinds of things. And I've used them too, and they do work to a degree, but they don't work long term. So what I have started doing instead of goal setting is still using the same principle of here's the overarching vision, and here are the key pieces of it, and these are the kind of things I need to work on using that kind of domino and the daily actions and things you learn in the RPM, but actually just setting up projects instead. So rather than it being a goal, it's a project, because I think as soon as you start talking about goals, they tend to be more emotionally charged. And when you have emotions added into the equation, things can get a bit messy. So when you set a goal, they're super outcome focused. And more often than not, we just set it because we think we need to set it because we think it's a stepping stone towards something better, which, yes, it is. But more often than not, we're just setting it because we think we need to set it, and then we end up dragging ourselves there, kicking and screaming, or we just quit on the goal and then we feel like a failure, or we self-sabotage. There's all kinds of reasons why I've switched from goal setting to this. And you could argue that, well, it's the same thing. But from a psychological standpoint, it just sits different. All right. When you complete a project, there's a sense of fulfillment. Whereas when you reach a goal, it's usually very short-lived. Like you've reached a goal, and more often than not, it can be empty, it can be unfulfilling, and not really made any difference to your life. Whereas projects are just these things that I find work really well. Instead of draining resources, they help me generate momentum to move to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, and they all compound on themselves to tick off the things that I need to tick off to get to where I want to go. So rather than setting goals, I set projects. Okay. And each project will generally have a theme. And then we can tie that to important dates throughout our life as well. So, you can, instead of saying, right, this is a 90-day project or whatever you want, this is a project that extends until my birthday or whatever. If you use dates that are important in your life, then they're going to be more impactful for you, okay, rather than just some generic time period. So, how do we do this? How do we set up a project instead of setting goals? So, let's get the whiteboard up. And again, you don't have to do this if you like goal setting, go with goal setting. But this is just something that I've found really helps. It just creates a slightly different shift in mindset so that when I'm doing these things, it doesn't feel difficult. It doesn't feel like I'm having to drag myself through a goal that needs to be done. It's just a project that I'm working on, And the projects have checkpoints, which allow us those kind of incremental pieces of progress. And we know that that is an important part of not self-sabotaging, is seeing those bits of progress. And the desire for me to complete the project is more important than the actual end result, which means the end results come more naturally, and there's less opportunity for me to self-sabotage through lack of patience and various other things. It's the completion and the project that matters, and the results are just a bonus. And that way of thinking about it just has brought me so much more consistency, even when things don't feel like they're working, or, it's just a little simple shift. There's just something about it that works incredibly well for me, and I think it would probably work well for you as well. So, how do I select a project? Well, I look across the areas of my life, and generally I will choose health, wealth, and relationships. And then under that comes the different aspects of those things. So you've got the subcategories of health, subcategories of wealth, subcategories of relationships. You break that down as far as you want. And then within each one, I'll pick a particular project. So for me, health-wise, I've started to become very aware that I am getting older. And, I want to be able to stand there at 80 years old and still walk around on my own, get up off the floor, pick things up, and have a level of physicality that most people at 80 don't have. So part of that for me has been adjusting my training to suit. The other thing is energy. So there's kind of two things here. So there's longevity and energy are two themes within these areas of my life that I want to work on. So the first one I've considered is energy. So this is literally my current project right now. So to help with my energy, we have project. I don't even name them anymore. I just give them a number. So project number 1. Sometimes I think when you name something, it gives it more, like I said, emotional value earlier, and we want to try and take the emotion out of this and just keep it kind of like a experiment. So for me, I did assign a time period just because that's how long the training that I'm doing runs. So it's linked into that. There's no specific date for me at the minute because my birthday's already been. There's nothing significant date-wise coming up for me at the minute. So I've stuck with the program duration. So it's 3 times a week training. I'm doing 2.3 litres of water a day. I'm doing my greens and my supplements daily. I'm doing a gut health protocol. And I'm doing that twice. So it's an in-depth 6-day protocol, which I'm going to do twice over the course of the 2 weeks. And then it's a minimum of 100 grams of protein a day. Okay. That is the project. Duration is 6 weeks. And like I said before, generally, if you pick a date of significance, that works better. But because I don't have one at the moment and it's an ongoing kind of thing for me, this is the initial time frame. And these are the requirements. If I do this for 6 weeks, then I've completed the project. And in completing that project, I will have contributed towards better energy for myself. And I'll have these results and I'll be able to sit there and look at that and go, right, yeah, that did really help my energy levels. And I'll be able to keep doing it. Because after 6 weeks, these things will be pretty much ingrained. Most of them already are, but I got a little bit lazy with the water and I got a little bit lazy with my protein as well. So I'm enhancing those and putting a couple of other things in. Now, from a longevity standpoint, this is the significant time period is when I'm 80. So we've got, a while to go, 40 odd years to go. But I'm starting to make the changes now, and I've put a little bit of it in here. So actually changing my training style to be more functional and a kind of well-rounded fitness rather than just doing kind of powerlifting stuff all the time, because I know it's not doing my back too good and things like that. So actually making that shift with a long-term view. And I'll go more in detail with this probably in project number 2. Project number 2 for health will be kind of geared more around that. And then if we look at relationships, so I want to spend more time with my wife. So that's the theme there, is us spending more time together. So I might say this is project 2, will be a weekly date. And I want to do that until every week until let's say our anniversary, which is I'm in trouble, I don't remember, 5th of September. There we go. So the 5th of September, I could have been in trouble then. I want to have a weekly date until the 5th of September when we celebrate our anniversary. Okay, so that's the project. Hit the weekly date. That's the significant date for me. And that's the action. And I could have some secondary actions here, like cook once a week together. We can have another significant thing, like, for example, I don't know, we go out once a week in nature, go for a walk together, something like that. All right, so that's how I would build that project out. All of these would contribute to me spending more time with my wife, which is what I'd like relationship-wise. Okay. So it's all about picking projects that move you closer towards what you want for your vision. So rather than setting a goal of, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm actually just going to set myself projects. Okay. I think the change in language, the change in perspective, all of that just works fantastically well. So I would urge you to try it. If you really like goal setting, then fine, stick with it. But if you find goal setting's a bit crap and you're always falling off and it's not working for you, try this instead. Build yourself some projects, and just complete the project. Do the work, I think for me, because I'm very much a just get it done, do the work type of person, a project works better for me than a goal. Okay. I actually have a project book. Oh, you can't see it because of the camera. It's a big grey book that's full of the work projects, things for Project Tempest. And they're all in there. There's like 8 or 9 different projects in there. I'll complete one and I'll do the next one and the next one and the next one. And each one will have a series of actions inside of it. All right. So give that a go. Now, the second thing I wanted to add in here is actually reviewing your projects and just taking the time to kind of get right with yourself once a week, meeting with yourself. So looking at what's been working and what you've actually ticked off in your projects, setting up new projects if need be, and also doing something that I like to call meet with the master. So you're working to become a better version of you. Chances are the person you are today is significantly improved than who you were when you were 15 years old. So the person you are when you are 75, 80 should be significantly more improved than the person you are today. So if you can spend some time once a week reviewing things and then actually just thinking about your future self and looking at how they would tackle things, looking at what advice they would give you, looking at how they would do things, it's going to give you a new perspective. Because when you're working on stuff and you're getting involved in your projects and you're doing what you need to do, you can kind of get lost in it a little bit. And sometimes it's good to have a change of perspective. But the best perspective and the best advice will always come from you, learning to trust your instincts. So using the kind of principles of future pacing once a week, and I'm going to give you a protocol to do this. I want you to sit down and imagine your future self. So you're however old you want to be, that ultimate version of yourself. You've worked on yourself and you got to a point where you are solid, you have great wisdom, you trust yourself. What would that person do? What would they say to you? What would they say looking across your week? And what would they suggest that you do next? Okay. Because when you're working on yourself and you're doing your projects and you're in your stuff, it can be difficult to kind of actually see stuff and review stuff. And it's nice to have help. But the person who can help you best is you. And it can be hard to trust yourself. But if you can kind of separate yourself and go and meet with this future version of you, then, you're going to give yourself some quality advice. All right. So I'm going to give you probably one of the best protocols that I've ever created underneath this video. It's going to be something that you can do on a weekly basis. So you can sit down, go through the protocol. You'll assess your week, the different areas of it, how it's going. You will then imagine your older self, this person who you are trying to grow into, the person who you want to be in the future as you move forwards. And you're just going to meet with them. And you're going to take advice from them. And you're going to plan ahead. Because the best person to offer you advice is you, your future self, the person you are working to become. You in the future is going to be better than you are right now. And you right now is better than who you were at 15. If you could go back and tell your 15-year-old self what to do, they'd probably do a lot better. So we want to use that same principle, but future pace it and bring it forwards. So I'll wait till I go with that protocol. Because at this stage, rather than having your kind of preset journal, you just have your notebook and you're doing your own journaling. So you can use this in place of kind of a weekly review. All right. So it's a specific tool to help you assess, plan ahead, and objectively advise yourself on what your appropriate next steps are going to be. And that'll all make sense when you go through that protocol under here. All right. So this is kind of around practical progress. Try setting up some projects instead of goal setting, and just make sure that they're aligned with your vision and where you want to go. And it will tie in with the stuff that you're watching with the focus video as well. And then look back on yourself, well, look forward on yourself and kind of offer advice around what you can do, strategies, things that you would implement, and then adjust the plan and go from there. Okay? Because it's time for you at this stage to start trusting yourself a little bit, trusting your instincts, and knowing that you already know what you need to do, and you can give yourself permission to do that by allowing the future version of you to dictate that a little bit. All right. Sounds a bit woo-woo, but once you go through the process, I think you'll enjoy it. So give that a go. Any questions, let me know.